There's an old saying among animal rescuers, lost dogs run, but dumped dogs stay. They wait right where they were left, not understanding that no one is coming back. I reckon that's true for people too. Last month, folks found a senior dog tied to a tree in Georgia. 8 years of loyalty, and somebody just walked away. Left her there like yesterday's newspaper. Made me think about all the creatures in this world, two-legged and four-legged alike, who've been thrown away by someone who was supposed to love them. Can they ever trust again? Can a broken heart learn to beat right? I want to tell you about a dog named Rocky, a German shepherd who was tossed into a drainage ditch on a stormy Arizona night, and about a woman named Victoria Hayes, a millionaire who had everything except the one thing money can't buy. Their paths crossed at 2:47 in the morning. What happened next made both of them cry. Before we continue, please leave a like and subscribe. Let me know which city you're watching from. Now, let's get back to the story. The photographer from that fancy business magazine positioned Victoria Hayes in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows. All that Arizona sky behind her, all that expensive nothing. Self-made women under 50. The headline would say. The photographer asked her to smile. She did. The camera clicked. Nobody asked about the 47 rooms she walked past every night. Nobody asked why the house smelled like furniture polish and nothing else, no cookies baking, no coffee brewing, no traces of anyone living there at all. The kitchen counter had a worn spot where she ate standing up. Leftover takeout. Most nights, while the grandfather clock in the hallway ticked loud enough to echo tick, tick, tick. The sound of time passing in an empty house. Her emergency contact was her lawyer, not a friend, not family, just a man named Gerald who billed $400 an hour and wouldn't notice if she disappeared tomorrow. 2 divorces, no children. A computer security company worth more money than her mama ever saw in a lifetime. Victoria Hayes, 42 years old, and lonelier than she'd been at 7, back in that trailer park in Oklahoma. Her bedroom had one photograph, a little girl with tangled hair holding a yellow mutt. The girl's front teeth were missing. The dog's tongue hung sideways out of his mouth, the way dogs do when they're happy. The frame sat on her nightstand. The glass was smudged where her thumb touched it every night before she turned off the lamp. Biscuit. That was his name. She hadn't said it out loud in 35 years. Victoria donated $500,000 to the animal shelter every year. Anonymous. The receipt stayed folded in her wallet, right behind her driver's license. She had never stepped inside a shelter. Not once. When those commercials came on, the ones with the sad music and the dogs behind chain-link fences, her hand reached for the remote before she knew she was moving. If the music started before she could change the channel, she left the room. That night, after the board meeting, Victoria sat in her Mercedes in the parking garage. The engine was off. The only sound was her own breathing. Walter Fleming's voice kept playing in her head. Perhaps someone more palatable. She started the car, pulled onto the highway. The dashboard clock read 1:45 a.m. Desert rain hammered the windshield. Then movement in the ditch. A paw, reaching up from the water. Victoria's foot hit the brake before her brain caught up. The Mercedes skidded on wet asphalt, stopped. She sat there, engine running, wipers slapping back and forth. The heater hummed, blowing warm air that smelled like leather and the faint perfume she'd put on 14 hours ago. Not your problem. Call someone. She pulled out her phone, dialed animal control. An automated voice came through the speaker. Our office opens at 6 a.m. For emergencies involving human safety, please contact 911. 6 a.m. 4 hours from now. She looked in the rearview mirror. The paw was still there, still reaching. Weaker now. Rain drummed on the roof like fingers tapping. Impatient. Drive away. You have a company to run. A board that wants you gone. Walter Fleming and his country club smile. Her hand moved toward the gear shift. The paw slipped under the water, came back up. Barely. Victoria turned off the engine. The ditch ran alongside the highway, concrete-lined, carrying runoff from the hills, 4 feet deep, maybe more. Water moving fast, brown with mud and whatever else the desert washed down when the rains came. Victoria stood at the edge. Her Louboutin heels $800. Italian leather sank into the soft shoulder. She kicked them off, left them where they fell. The rain soaked through her jacket in seconds. Cold, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones and makes your teeth want to chatter. She sat down on the concrete lip of the ditch. The surface was slick with algae, green and slimy under her palms. She pushed off, slid down feet first. The water hit her like a punch, chest deep. Colder than the rain. The current grabbed at her legs, pulled her sideways. Her stockinged feet scrambled for purchase on the bottom broken concrete, trash, something soft that squished between her toes. The dog was 15 feet away, tangled in branches and plastic bags and wire, looked like part of an old fence somebody had dumped. Only his head above water, one paw reaching up, over and over, like he was trying to climb stairs that weren't there. Victoria pushed forward. Each step was a fight. The current wanted her downstream, her feet wanted to slip, her body wanted to be anywhere else. 10 feet. Her shin hit something sharp underwater. Pain flared up her leg, hot and immediate. She kept moving. 5 feet. The dog's eyes found her. Brown eyes. No panic in them anymore. Just watching. Like he'd already decided how this story ended. "Hey there, buddy. I'm coming. Hold on." Her voice sounded thin out here. Small against the rain and the rushing water and the dark. She reached him. Her hands found the debris branches wrapped in plastic, a tangle of wire with teeth that bit into her palms. She pulled. The wire held. She pulled harder. The dog didn't struggle, didn't help, just hung there. Dead weight in the current. Victoria's fingers were going numb. She couldn't feel what she was grabbing anymore. She pulled anyway. Something gave. More wire. More branches. Her foot slipped on the slick concrete bottom. She went under. Water in her nose, her mouth. The taste of mud and rust and something rotten. The current rolled her sideways. Her shoulder hit concrete, and she came up gasping, grabbed at the dog's collar, thick leather, waterlogged, barely holding together. Come on now." She hooked her arm under his chest. 80 pounds, maybe more. The current wanted both of them now. The concrete slope was 3 feet away. Might as well have been a mile. Victoria planted her foot, pushed, slipped, planted again. 1 step. Her thighs burned. 2 steps. Her back screamed. Her free hand found the edge of the slope, fingers digging into a crack in the concrete, nails bending backward. She pulled. Her shoulders felt like they were tearing loose from the sockets. The dog's body scraped against the concrete as she hauled them both up. Her knees found the slope, then her elbows. She crawled the last 2 feet. Dragging him with her, they collapsed on the muddy shoulder. Rain pounding down. Victoria's lungs burning like she'd swallowed fire. The dog wasn't moving. She put her ear to his ribs, wet fur against her cheek. The smell of dirty water and something else underneath infection. Maybe. Old wounds gone sour. Heartbeat. Faint. Uneven. But there. Lord, please, don't let him die. Not after all that. Stay with me, buddy. Come on now. Stay with me. The emergency veterinary clinic was 20 minutes away. Victoria drove barefoot, one hand on the wheel, the other reaching back to press against the dog's chest, counting heartbeats, counting seconds between each one. The fluorescent lights of the clinic stung her eyes. She stood in the waiting room, dripping muddy water onto the linoleum floor. A nurse had handed her a towel. She forgot she was holding it. Dr. Eleanor Webb came through the double doors. Gray ponytail, reading glasses on a chain. The kind of face that had seen too much to be surprised by anything anymore. Hypothermic, malnourished, old injuries, ribs that healed wrong, scarring on the neck consistent with repeated electrical burns. Victoria's hand tightened on the towel. The damage is systematic. Whoever had this dog knew exactly how to cause pain without killing. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Somewhere down the hall, a cat meowed. Will he make it? Dr. Webb took off her glasses, rubbed the bridge of her nose. His body, probably. We can fix bones and infections. She looked at Victoria with tired eyes. But this dog has been tortured. Mrs. Hayes, not just hurt, trained to expect pain from human hands. He may never trust another person again. Victoria looked through the window at the kennels. A German shepherd lay in the corner of a cage, pressed against the wall, facing away from everyone. You understand what I'm telling you. Victoria understood. More than this doctor could possibly know. The waiting room chairs were orange plastic, bolted to the floor. Victoria had been sitting in one for 6 hours. Her suit had dried into stiff wrinkles that scratched against her skin. Her hair was matted, stiff with dried mud. She smelled like ditch water and the sharp tang of antiseptic that hung in the air. The coffee machine in the corner gurgled and dripped. Someone had left a pot burning too long, the smell of scorched coffee mixed with disinfectant and the faint, sad odor of sick animals. 7 a.m. The sun was coming up outside, pale light filtering through dusty blinds. Dr. Webb pushed through the double doors. We need to discuss placement. Victoria looked up. Her neck ached from the hard plastic chair. County shelter can take him when he's stable. They have resources for cases like this, behavioral specialists, long-term foster programs. Victoria's mouth opened. The word came out before she knew she was going to say it. No. Dr. Webb waited. The coffee machine gurgled again. I'll take him. The doctor pulled off her glasses, folded them, unfolded them. Mrs. Hayes, this dog may never recover fully. He flinches at raised voices, cowers at sudden movement. Physical recovery is one thing. The psychological damage, she shook her head. He may never trust anyone again. Victoria looked through the window at the kennels. The German shepherd was still in his corner, still facing the wall. Then I reckon we'll figure it out together. Day 3. The kennel smelled like bleach, and something underneath the bleach, fear. Maybe. The kind that soaks into concrete and never quite washes out. Victoria sat on the floor, cold tile under her legs. 6 feet from Rocky's cage, her back against the opposite wall. She didn't reach through the bars, didn't make eye contact, didn't speak. Just sat. Rocky stayed in his corner. His body was a tight curl nose tucked under tail, spine pressed against the cage wall. His eyes tracked her without moving his head. 1 hour. Victoria's lower back started to ache. The tile was cold pulled through her slacks. 2 hours. Her left foot fell asleep, pins and needles crawling up her ankle. 3 hours. A vet tech walked past, rubber shoes squeaking on the floor, glanced at Victoria, said nothing. Rocky hadn't moved. Victoria hadn't moved. Somewhere in the building, a dog barked, then another. Rocky's ears flattened, but he stayed in his corner. When Victoria finally stood, her knees cracked loud enough to echo off the concrete walls. 53 in her joints, even if her driver's license said 42. She walked toward the door. Her hand touched the handle. She looked back. Rocky's head lifted, just slightly, just enough. Watching her go. Day 4. The vet tech, a young woman named Carla with kind eyes and a ponytail, ran the microchip scanner over Rocky's shoulder. The device beeped. Got a hit. She squinted at her computer screen. Registered to Brad Hollister, Desert Canine Training, out near Mesa. Victoria stood in the doorway. The smell of kibble and medicine hung in the air. Original designation. Carla scrolled down. Her face changed. Unit 7. Unit 7. Not a name. A number. Like inventory. Like equipment. Victoria thought about a dusty road in Oklahoma. A trailer park where the mailboxes were always falling over and the neighbors' dogs ran loose. Rocky Creek Road where a 7-year-old girl learned that the things you love can be taken away without warning. His name is Rocky now. Carla looked up. Any particular reason? Victoria didn't answer. Carla didn't push. Day 7. Discharge papers. $12,000. Victoria signed without looking at the number. The hard part was getting him to the car. Rocky walked through the clinic on shaking legs. Past the reception desk, where Carla waved goodbye. Past the window where morning sunlight streamed in, warm and golden. His nails clicked on the tile floor. Click, click, click. Then he saw the parking lot. The car. He stopped dead. Every muscle locked up like someone had thrown a switch. His legs went rigid, planted on the tile like they'd grown roots. Victoria could see his chest heaving. Fast, shallow breaths, the whites of his eyes showing. The last car he'd been in, someone had thrown him out of it. She knelt down in front of him, kept her hands at her sides. The tile was cold under her knees. I know, buddy, I know cars are bad. His ears flattened against his skull. But I need you to try, just this once. She waited. The receptionist watched from behind her desk. Dr. Webb stood in the hallway. Arms crossed. 1 minute. Rocky's breathing didn't slow. His ribs heaved in and out. 2 minutes. His right front paw lifted, hovered, set back down. 3 minutes. The paw lifted again, moved forward. 1 inch. Victoria held her breath. 4 minutes. Another step, then another. His nails scraped on the tile like he was walking on ice. She stood slowly, walked to the car, opened the back door. Rocky followed. Each step a negotiation between terror and something else, something Victoria recognized in her own bones, the need to believe that this time might be different. She lifted him into the back seat. 80 pounds of trembling muscle and matted fur. He pressed himself into the corner, as far from her as the space allowed. Victoria closed the door gentle as a whisper, got in the driver's seat. She drove with one hand, her other arm rested on the center console, palm up, open, not reaching. The highway stretched out, desert on both sides, scrub brush and red rock and endless sky. 20 minutes. Rocky stayed pressed against the door. 30 minutes. His breathing slowed, just a little. 40 minutes. His nose brushed her fingers. Wet. Cold. A whisper of contact. Then he pulled back. Retreated to his corner. But Victoria had felt it. That tiny touch. She kept her hand exactly where it was for the rest of the trip. The mansion driveway was a 1/4 mile long. Gravel crunching under the tires like breakfast cereal. Rocky's head lifted when the car stopped. His ears swiveled forward, catching sounds birds in the oleander bushes, the distant hum of the pool filter. Victoria walked around, opened his door. He didn't move. Take your time, buddy. We got nothing but time. She stepped back. Waited. 5 minutes. His nose twitched. New smells cut grass. Chlorine from the pool. Something blooming sweet in the garden. 10 minutes. One paw on the edge of the seat, then another. He jumped down. His legs buckled, then held. He stood on the gravel driveway, head low, tail tucked tight against his belly. Then he walked 3 steps to the nearest bush and watered it for a solid 30 seconds. Victoria laughed. The sound startled her, loud in the quiet evening, bouncing off the big, empty house. When was the last time she'd laughed alone? She couldn't remember. Rocky finished, looked up at her. His tail moved. Not a wag, just a twitch. But his eyes had changed, still wary, still watching for the next bad thing. And underneath that, a question. What happens now? Day 8. Rocky found the laundry room on his own. Victoria watched from the hallway as he circled the small space, nose working, checking corners, behind the dryer, where dust bunnies gathered, under the folding table that smelled like fabric softener and warm cotton. The smallest room in the house, no windows. Just the hum of machines and the gentle warmth from the dryer vent. He lay down in the corner, between the dryer and the wall, pressed his back against both surfaces, safe as he knew how to be. Victoria left his food bowl 6 feet from the door, walked away. When she came back an hour later, the bowl was empty, licked clean. Rocky was in his corner, watching her with those brown eyes. She refilled the bowl, walked away again. Day 9. The landscaping crew arrived at 8 a.m., 3 trucks rumbling up the gravel drive. Leaf blowers, hedge trimmers. Victoria was in her study, going over quarterly reports. When the first engine revved outside, the sound that came from the laundry room, she'd never heard anything like it. Not a bark, not a howl. Something between a scream and a whimper. High-pitched and broken, like a child having a nightmare. She ran. Rocky was behind the washing machine, wedged into a space that shouldn't have fit him. His whole body shaking so hard his teeth chattered. His eyes rolled white, showing nothing but terror. Victoria dropped to her knees on the cold tile floor. "It's okay, buddy. It's okay. Just noise. Just yard work." He didn't hear her. He was somewhere else, some other time, some other yard where engines meant pain was coming. She pulled out her phone, called the landscaping company. "This is Victoria Hayes. Your crew needs to leave. Now today's service is canceled." A pause on the other end. "Ma'am, you're on contract for weekly. Cancel the contract." She hung up. Outside, the engines died one by one. Trucks pulled away on the gravel. It took Rocky 40 minutes to stop shaking. Victoria sat on the laundry room floor the whole time, not touching him, just present. The dryer hummed beside her, warm air drifting out that smelled like clean towels. Day 10. The doorbell rang at 2 p.m., a delivery something Victoria had ordered weeks ago and forgotten about. Rocky bolted from the kitchen so fast his paws slipped on the hardwood. Victoria heard him hit the laundry room door, heard the crash of a mop bucket falling over. She found him in his corner, not behind the washing machine this time. Progress. But his chest heaved like he'd run a marathon. That afternoon, she called an electrician, had him remove every doorbell in the house, replace them with soft chimes, the kind that sounded like wind through bamboo, like the wind chimes her mama used to hang on the trailer porch. Back in Oklahoma, Day 11, Victoria discovered the microwave was a problem. She'd heated up some leftover pot roast from the diner downtown, the first real meal she'd bought herself in weeks. The beep, when the timer finished 3 short tones, sent Rocky into his corner with his head down and his ears flat against his skull. She unplugged the microwave, put it in the garage. Then she went through the house, room by room. The coffee maker beeped. Gone. The security system's arm tone. Disabled. Her phone's notification sounds. Silenced. The house got quieter. Victoria got quieter too. She found herself listening to sounds she'd never noticed before. The tick of the grandfather clock in the hallway. The settling of the house at night. The wind moving through the mesquite trees outside. Day 12, Linda found her at 6 a.m. Victoria was on the laundry room floor, her back against the warm side of the dryer, an old throw pillow under her head. Rocky was 3 feet away, pressed into his corner, both of them asleep. "Ma'am!" Victoria opened her eyes. Her neck ached something fierce. Her hip had gone numb where it pressed against tile. "He doesn't like sleeping alone." Linda, 62 years old, worked for Victoria going on 9 years. Never asked personal questions, looked at her for a long moment. The early morning light came through the kitchen window behind her. "Neither do you, I reckon." Victoria didn't answer, didn't deny it either. Day 18. The couch in the living room was Italian leather. $15,000. Victoria had bought it because some decorator told her to. Back when she thought expensive things would fill up the empty spaces, she fell asleep on it at 9 p.m., still in her work clothes, laptop open on the coffee table. The conference calls had run 6 hours. The board was circling like buzzards. Walter Fleming had sent 3 messages, each one more condescending than the last, something about reconsidering leadership structure before they took the company public next spring. She woke at 2 a.m. The laptop had gone to sleep. The room was dark except for moonlight coming through the big windows, painting silver rectangles on the hardwood floor. Something was different. Rocky was on the floor beside the couch. Not touching her, but close. Closer than he'd ever chosen to be. Victoria held her breath. Didn't move. Didn't want to break whatever this was. Rocky's eyes were closed. His breathing was slow. Even. His body loose in a way she'd never seen before. His tail moved. Once, a hesitation, then again, not a wag, not yet. Just a flicker, like a pilot light in a furnace that had been cold for too long. Victoria stared at the ceiling until dawn. She didn't sleep again. She didn't need to. Day 31. The gate guard called at 4 p.m. "Ma'am, there's a Marcus Cole here. Says he's your let him through." Victoria was waiting in the foyer when his Porsche pulled up. Same car he'd bought with her money 3 years ago. Same smile when he walked through the door. Marcus Cole, 45. Handsome in the way that wears thin after a while. 3 years married, 2 years divorced. The settlement had given him $4 million, which he'd called barely enough to start over. "Vicky," he spread his arms like he expected a hug. "The place looks good. What do you want, Marcus? Straight to business?" He laughed, that charming laugh that used to work on her. "That's my girl." "Don't call me that." His eyes moved past her shoulder. Rocky had appeared in the hallway. Standing, not growling, just watching. "You got yourself a dog." Victoria didn't answer. "Always said you weren't the nurturing type." Marcus took a step toward Rocky. "What's his name?" Rocky's lip curled back. A low sound started in his chest, not quite a growl, but a warning. Marcus stopped. The smile flickered. "Control your dog. Victoria. He doesn't much care for strangers." She crossed her arms. "What do you want?" Marcus reached into his jacket, pulled out his phone, held it up. Photos. Victoria at 22. Cocktail waitress uniform. A casino in Reno. Victoria at 24. Clearing tables at a diner. Graveyard shift. Her eyes hollow from exhaustion. A mugshot. 19 years old. Scared girl with a number under her chin. "These would make an interesting story," Marcus said. "Don't you think tech CEO's secret past right before you take your company public?" The foyer was silent except for Rocky's low rumble. The charges were dropped. "It doesn't matter." Marcus's smile was back. "How it looks is what matters. You know that." Victoria's fingernails dug into her palms. $2 million. Vicky. Cash. And these stay between us. Get out of my house. Marcus pocketed his phone, walked toward the door. "Think about it. You have until the gala. I bought a ticket. By the way, he paused at the threshold, supporting the cause and all. The door closed behind him. His car started. Gravel crunched as he drove away. Rocky was still standing in the hallway. He walked over to Victoria, sat down beside her. She didn't touch him, but she didn't walk away either. Day 35. The story broke at 6 a.m., not from Marcus, from someone else, an anonymous internal source. Victoria read the headline on the morning news while standing in the kitchen, coffee going cold in her hand. Tech CEO lives in $8 million mansion while workers struggle. Photos of the house, her cars, the jewelry she'd worn to a conference last spring. The television showed people's faces, talking heads giving their opinions. Comments scrolled across the bottom of the screen. She turned it off. Day 38. Board meeting. The conference room smelled like expensive cologne and fresh coffee. Nobody was drinking. Walter Fleming sat at the far end of the table. Red tie today, his grandfather's company ring glinting on his pinky finger. The appearances are difficult. Victoria. He steepled his fingers like he was praying. Though Victoria doubted the man had said a real prayer in his life, perhaps a leave of absence. No. The timeline for going public. I built this company from nothing. I'll see it through. Walter's smile didn't change. It never did. Of course, we're just concerned about your well-being. Day 40. The phone rang at 9 p.m. Victoria almost let it go. Margaret Hollis, 64 years old, the woman who'd given Victoria her first real job, back when she was just a scared kid from Oklahoma with a GED and a dream. They hadn't talked in 8 months. Victoria had let things slip, the way she always did. You need to pay Marcus off. Margaret's voice was clipped. All business. Make this disappear. Victoria stood at her window. The backyard lights made the pool glow blue-green in the darkness. That's giving up. That's strategy. You're letting emotion cloud. I'm letting principle. You're letting that dog make you soft. Silence. The pool filter hummed outside. Somewhere in the neighborhood. A coyote howled. Victoria, I care about you, but you're acting like you have something to prove. You don't. Just make this go away. Victoria hung up. She stood there for a long time. The house was quiet. 47 rooms of quiet. Rocky appeared in the doorway. He didn't come in. The study was still unfamiliar territory, but he stood there, watching. Everybody's got an opinion. Huh, buddy? His tail flickered. Yeah, me too. Day 45. 3 a.m. Victoria sat at the kitchen counter in the dark. Just the moonlight through the window and the green glow of the stove clock. Rocky had started following her from room to room 3 days ago. He was beside her now, sitting on the cool tile floor. She hadn't slept more than 2 hours a night in a week. Every morning brought more stories. Anonymous sources. Speculation about her mental health. Some newspaper columnist wrote a piece called When Self-Made Women Become Self-Destructive. Her phone sat face down on the counter. She didn't want to look at it anymore. Rocky shifted, rose up on his legs, put his head on her knee. First time he'd ever done that. Victoria's hand hovered over him. She didn't touch, afraid to break whatever spell this was. You know something's coming, don't you? His brown eyes looked up at her, steady, patient, waiting. Tomorrow was the gala. 400 people, a stage, a microphone. And somewhere in that crowd, Marcus, with his phone, with his photos, with that smile. Victoria's hand settled on Rocky's head. The fur was warm, his skull solid beneath her palm, his heartbeat steady against her leg. Me too, buddy. Me too. Day 46. The Scottsdale Animal Rescue Foundation had transformed the grand ballroom into something out of a magazine. Crystal chandeliers threw rainbows across white linen tablecloths. Servers in pressed uniforms carried trays of champagne that caught the light like liquid gold. 400 guests, doctors, lawyers, businessmen, old money and new, all of them here for the animals. All of them dressed in their finest. Perfume and cologne, mixing with the smell of expensive catering prime rib and rosemary potatoes and something chocolate for dessert. The theme this year, second chances. Victoria stood in the bathroom, gripping the edge of the marble sink. The fluorescent light was harsh, unforgiving. Her reflection stared back at her black dress, simple cut, no jewelry except a thin gold band on her right hand. Her mama's ring, worn smooth from decades of hard work, dishwashing, scrubbing floors, holding a sick daughter's hand in the night. Victoria had almost canceled tonight. 3 times. Once at 6 a.m. when she couldn't make herself get out of bed. Once at noon when another headline popped up on the television. Once in the car, 30 minutes ago, when her hands started shaking so bad she had to pull over on the highway shoulder. But this was for the animals. The rescue dogs. The ones nobody wanted. She couldn't not show up for them. The ballroom buzzed with conversation. Forks clinked against china. Someone laughed too loud near the bar, that kind of laugh people do when they've had 2 glasses of champagne and want everyone to know they're having a good time. Victoria entered through the side door, kept her head down, made her way toward the stage. Table 4, Walter Fleming. He saw her, raised his champagne glass in a little toast. That smile. Always that smile. Table 12. Marcus. He waved, actually waved, like they were old friends at a church picnic. Victoria's stomach turned. She kept walking. The stage was small, just a raised platform with a wooden podium and a projection screen behind it. A microphone waited on the stand. The house lights dimmed slightly as she climbed the 3 carpeted steps. The room began to settle. Conversations died down like a radio being turned low. 400 faces turned toward her. Victoria adjusted the microphone, cleared her throat. The sound echoed through the speakers too loud at first. "Good evening. Thank you for being here." Her voice came out thin. Someone in the back adjusted the sound system. "6 weeks ago, I found a dog in a ditch." The room was quiet now, attentive. Forks set down on plates. He was drowning. Someone had thrown him away because he wasn't useful anymore. Victoria's hands gripped the podium. The wood was smooth under her palms, worn by other speakers who had stood here before. "His name is Rocky. He's home right now, probably sleeping in the laundry room. That's his favorite spot? Small? Dark? Safe." A few soft laughs rippled through the crowd. An older woman at table 7 dabbed her eyes with a napkin. "I didn't rescue him. I want to be clear about that." She paused. Let the words settle. "I pulled him out of the water, but the rescuing the real work he's doing that himself. Every day, every time he chooses to trust a little more, even when everything in his history tells him not to." Victoria looked out at the faces. Some were nodding. Some had set down their champagne glasses to listen properly. "I'm not going to ask you for money tonight. You'll give it anyway. You're good people." She took a breath. "I'm going to ask you for something harder. I'm going to ask you to think about the ones nobody wants. The broken ones. The scared ones. The ones who've been thrown away." Her voice steadied. This part she believed with her whole heart. They're worth saving, even when it's hard, especially when... The screen behind her flickered. Victoria saw it in the faces first. The shift. Confusion replacing attention. Eyes moving past her, looking at something behind her. She turned. The projection had changed. Her speech notes were gone. Instead, a photograph. Victoria at 22, cocktail waitress uniform, tight and sparkly, The casino in Reno. Her hair was longer then, pulled back in a ponytail. She was carrying a tray of drinks, smiling at someone off camera. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The image changed. Victoria at 24, diner uniform, graveyard shift, wiping down a table, her face tired, her apron stained with coffee and ketchup. Another change, the mug shot. 19 years old, face thinner than. Scared, numbers across the bottom of the frame. White text appeared beneath it. The real Victoria Hayes. Gasps, chairs scraping, the murmur of voices rising like water coming to a boil. Victoria's hands went numb on the podium. Her legs felt like they belonged to someone else. "Ladies and gentlemen," Marcus's voice, loud and clear. He was standing at table 12, holding a microphone. Where in the world had he gotten a microphone? "I think we should know who we're really celebrating tonight." He walked toward the stage, slow, taking his time, enjoying every step. A woman who lied about her background, who hid where she came from because she was ashamed of it. Victoria's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Ask her about the years she erased from her official story. Marcus stopped at the foot of the stage, looked up at her like a cat that had cornered a mouse. Ask her why. The room was silent except for the hum of the air conditioning and the soft clink of ice in glasses. 400 people. 400 witnesses. Victoria gripped the microphone. Her voice cracked. She heard it echo through the speakers, bouncing off the walls. "I worked those jobs to pay my mama's medical bills." "Did you?" Marcus tilted his head. "Or did you work them because that's what you were, trailer park trash trying to climb out of the gutter?" Someone in the crowd made a sound. Victoria couldn't tell if it was a gasp or something worse. The mugshot. Her throat was tight, like someone had their hands around it. "I was arrested for stealing baby formula, for a neighbor's child who was hungry. And that makes it okay. No, it makes it complicated. It makes you a fraud." Victoria looked out at the crowd. Some faces were sympathetic, an older couple at table 9. Holding hands, some were uncertain, some were already leaning toward their neighbors, whispering behind cupped hands. Walter Fleming was still smiling at table 4. Of course, he was. "If you're so proud of where you came from," Marcus said, his voice carrying through the room, "why'd you hide it all these years?" The question hung in the air. Victoria opened her mouth. Nothing. No answer. No defense. No clever response that would make this right. The silence stretched. 5 seconds. 10. The longest seconds of her life. She heard whispers starting in the back of the room, saw heads leaning together, saw the older couple at table 9 look away. Embarrassed for her. Her hands released the podium. She stepped back from the microphone. The walk off the stage took forever. 3 steps down. Each one felt like walking through wet concrete. She didn't run. Running would give them more to talk about. Her heels clicked on the marble floor. The crowd parted slightly as she passed. Nobody spoke to her. Nobody reached out a hand. The double doors were 50 feet away. 40. 30. Walter Fleming stepped into her path. "Victoria." His voice was quiet, almost gentle. "Perhaps we should discuss your transition." She stopped, looked at him. "Effective Monday. You're on administrative leave. The board will meet Wednesday. But," he spread his hands like a preacher offering benediction, "I think we both know how this ends." Victoria's jaw tightened. "I built that company. And now it's outgrown you." His smile hadn't changed. It never would. She walked past him, through the doors, into the parking lot. The rain had started again. Day 46, 11:47 p.m. Victoria pulled into her driveway, killed the engine, sat in the dark. The rain had stopped somewhere on the highway. Now the only sound was the tick of the cooling engine and her own breathing, ragged and shallow. Her hands were still shaking. She gripped the steering wheel to make them stop. They didn't. Trailer park trash trying to climb out of the gutter. Marcus's voice, playing on repeat, like a song you can't get out of your head. She got out of the car, left the door hanging open, walked to the front entrance. Rocky was waiting inside. His tail wagged when he saw her. He didn't know. He didn't know anything. Victoria pushed past him. The study. The bar cabinet. A bottle of scotch she'd kept for 5 years, a gift from some client whose name she couldn't remember. Never opened. She opened it now. The first swallow burned all the way down. The second went easier. Victoria walked through the house, turning on every light, the kitchen, the living room, the dining room she never used, light after light after light until the whole place blazed like a department store at Christmas. The brightness felt like punishment. She wanted it. Her Forbes Award sat on the mantel in the living room, glass and brass, self-made women under 50. She picked it up, heavy in her hands. She threw it against the wall. The glass shattered. The frame bent. Something inside her chest cracked open. The diplomas came next. Harvard MBA, Stanford certificate. All the paper proof that she was somebody, that she'd made something of herself, that she wasn't that scared girl from the trailer park anymore. Glass breaking. Frames cracking. The sounds were good. Satisfying. Rocky had retreated to the hallway, his ears flat against his skull, his body low to the ground. This was familiar to him, raised voices, breaking things, the sounds that came before pain. Victoria didn't notice. She was pulling things off walls now, off shelves, a crystal vase that cost more than her mama made in a month, a sculpture some gallery owner had talked her into buying. Her hands found the photograph, the 7-year-old girl, the yellow mutt, Biscuit's tongue hanging out sideways. She stopped. Her fingers were bleeding. Glass somewhere. She didn't remember cutting herself. She sank to the floor. The photograph pressed against her chest. Broken glass crunched beneath her like gravel. The sounds that came out of her, she didn't recognize them. Ugly sounds, wet and raw. 35 years of proving she was good enough. And Marcus had undone it in 30 seconds. Rocky stood in the doorway, 3 feet away. His body trembled. But he didn't run. Victoria looked at him through blurred eyes. "I'm sorry." Her voice was wrecked. "I didn't mean to scare you." Rocky didn't move. Victoria curled up on the floor, among the broken glass and shattered frames. The scotch bottle was still in her hand. She took another drink. The lights blazed overhead. The house was silent except for her breathing. After a while, she stopped crying. She just lay there. Empty. Day 47. 9:23 a.m. Victoria woke on the study floor. Her neck had locked at a bad angle. Her hip throbbed where it had pressed against hardwood all night. Her mouth tasted like copper and regret. Sunlight streamed through the windows. Too bright. Her head pounded like someone was hammering nails into her skull. The house phone was ringing. The landline, the one only 3 people had the number for. She crawled to the desk. Her knees screamed. She pulled the receiver down by the cord. "Victoria?" Gerald's voice. Her lawyer. "Are you all right? I've been trying to reach you since last night." She made a sound that might have been a word. "Listen, there's been a development. Marcus is demanding $5 million now. He says he has additional material, more photographs, documents from your early career. He's threatening to release everything this week." Victoria's free hand found the edge of the desk. "Held on. There's also another matter." Gerald paused. That pause lawyers use before they deliver the killing blow. Your ex-husband filed a complaint with Maricopa County Animal Control. Claims your dog attacked him during his visit. Rocky didn't. It doesn't matter what happened. They're sending an officer tomorrow to evaluate the animal. If he shows any aggression during the assessment, they'll classify him as dangerous. Victoria closed her eyes. Given the current situation with the media, there won't be any appeals. They'll take him. Victoria. The line was quiet. What do you want me to do? She hung up. Rocky was in the laundry room, his corner. He'd walked past all the broken glass to get there, but his paws looked okay. He looked up when she appeared in the doorway. They want to take you away from me. His tail flickered. That small movement she'd learned to recognize. Marcus wants everything. My company, my reputation, and now you. Victoria leaned against the doorframe. Her body felt borrowed, like it belonged to someone else. Maybe it would be better if they took you somewhere safe, away from all this mess I've made. Rocky's ears lifted, listening. I can't even protect myself. Buddy, how am I supposed to protect you? She pulled out the backup phone Linda had left on the kitchen counter, scrolled to Dr. Webb's number. Eleanor, it's Victoria Hayes. Mrs. Hayes, I saw the news. Is there a sanctuary? Somewhere that takes dogs like Rocky. Somewhere they couldn't reach him. A long pause on the other end. You're giving up on him. Victoria's hand tightened on the phone until her knuckles went white. I'm trying to save him. From what? From you. From everything. From Marcus. From animal control. From this whole... The dog chose you, Mrs. Hayes. He could have stayed in that corner forever. He chose to come out. Don't make him regret it. The line went dead. Day 47, 7:48 p.m. The rain started again around sunset. Not the violent storm of 6 weeks ago, just a steady, cold drizzle that turned the backyard into a swamp. Victoria walked outside in her bare feet, still wearing yesterday's dress, wrinkled and stained with scotch. Her hair hung in tangles, stiff with dried sweat and tears. The garden lights were off. She hadn't bothered to turn them on. The only light came from the house behind her, yellow rectangles spilling onto the wet grass. She walked past the pool, its surface pocked with raindrops, past the rose bushes Linda had planted last spring, past the koi pond where orange shapes drifted beneath dark water, the edge of the yard, where the landscaping ended and the raw desert began. Dirt and scrub brush and nothing. Her foot caught on a sprinkler head. She went down hard. Her hands hit mud. Her knees sank into it. Cold seeped through the thin fabric of her dress, into her skin, into her bones. She didn't get up. This is where you belong. The thought came clear and sharp. Her mama's voice, almost but twisted. Wrong. Trailer park girl, playing dress-up for 35 years. They all saw through it. They all know now. The rain fell on her back. The mud soaked into her dress, her skin, her hair where it dragged on the ground. Your mama worked herself to death so you could have a chance. And you wasted it. Hid behind fancy clothes and big houses and lies. Victoria pressed her forehead into the mud, felt it cold and gritty against her skin, smelled the wet earth, the rot of dead leaves, the copper tang of her own shame. Her mama used to pray. Every night, kneeling beside that little bed in the trailer, hands folded. Lord, give my girl a chance. That's all I ask. Just a chance. Victoria had gotten her chance, and she'd built a castle out of sand and secrets. And now it was washing away. Just stay here. Let go. Stop fighting. What's the point anymore? She lay flat, arms spread, face turned to the side so she could breathe. The mud was cold. The rain was cold. Everything was cold. She heard the back door creak open. heard paws on the wet patio stones. Rocky. She'd forgotten to close the door. He was standing at the edge of the grass, looking at her, rain flattening his fur against his ribs, his body rigid with uncertainty. He hated rain. He hated cold. He hated being out in the open, but she was out here. Victoria watched him through half-closed eyes. Go back inside. Buddy, go somewhere warm. You don't owe me a thing. Rocky took a step into the mud, then another. Rocky crossed the yard. Each step sank his paws deeper into the mud. His body shook with cold, but he kept coming. He reached her, stood there for a moment, rain streaming down his muzzle. Then he lay down, right beside her, in the mud, in the rain. His head settled on her chest. Heavy, warm despite the cold. Victoria felt his heartbeat against her ribs, steady, patient, counting out the seconds like that old grandfather clock in her hallway. She remembered, 6 weeks ago. A ditch full of rushing water, a paw reaching up. She had lain in the mud beside him then, held him, begged him to hold on. Now he was doing the same thing for her. Her arms moved on their own, wrapped around his wet body. He didn't flinch, didn't pull away. You stupid, stubborn dog. His tail moved against the mud, weak, but real. They threw you away, hurt you, taught you that people meant pain. Rocky pressed closer. His nose found the curve of her neck, cold and wet against her skin. You should hate everyone, should never trust another soul as long as you live. The rain kept falling. Victoria's dress was soaked through, plastered to her body like a second skin. Her fingers were numb. But here you are, in the rain, in the cold. For me. She felt something shift inside her chest, not breaking this time. Opening. If you're not giving up, she whispered into his wet fur, then I reckon I can't either. They made it inside around midnight. Victoria peeled off her ruined dress in the laundry room, found sweatpants and an old college t-shirt in the dryer, warm from sitting there, smelling like fabric softener. Rocky shook himself, spraying mud across the walls and the washing machine and Victoria's bare legs. She didn't care. Let him. She toweled him off. He stood still for it, patient, watching her face with those brown eyes. Come on, buddy. Let's get some rest. She lay down on the laundry room floor. The tile was cold, but she'd slept here before. The dryer hummed beside her, warm air drifting out. Rocky circled once, twice, then curled up against her side. His breathing slowed, his body relaxed, loose in a way she'd rarely seen. Victoria stared at the ceiling. The fluorescent light buzzed overhead. He chose this. He chose me. When was the last time anyone chose me? She closed her eyes. Day 48, 6:17. A.M. A phone was ringing. Victoria opened her eyes. Her back ached, something fierce. Her hip had gone numb again. Rocky was still beside her. Ears perked toward the sound coming from the kitchen. The backup phone. Linda must have plugged it in on the counter. Victoria pushed herself up. Her joints cracked and complained. She found the phone on the third ring. Margaret Hollis. She answered. Victoria. Margaret's voice was different, softer than yesterday, tired. I watched the video from the gala, all of it. Victoria leaned against the counter. The morning light was gray through the window, said nothing. I was wrong. What I said about making it go away, about you being soft. Silence on the line. Victoria could hear Margaret breathing. When you walked off that stage, I thought you were beaten. Thought Marcus had won. Victoria's throat tightened. But I watched you walk through that crowd. You didn't run, didn't collapse or make a scene. You kept your chin up the whole way out. Didn't feel like that. It never does. Margaret paused. I made some calls last night, early this morning. Woke up some folks who owed me favors. The photos Marcus has, half of them are doctored. That casino picture is real. But the diner photo isn't even you. Someone edited it. Pasted your face onto another woman's body. Victoria straightened up. The mugshot is real, but the story he's telling isn't. Shoplifting baby formula for a hungry child isn't the same as stealing for profit. The prosecutor dropped those charges because he agreed with you. We can't prove. We can make the cost of his lies higher than whatever he thinks he's getting. That's all we need to do. Victoria looked at Rocky. He had followed her to the kitchen, was sitting near the doorway, watching. Why now, Margaret? Why are you helping now? A long pause. Victoria heard the older woman take a breath. Because I got scared and let you down. And I'm too old to let that be the last thing I do for someone I care about. Day 48. 2:14 p.m. The animal control truck pulled into the driveway. White, official seal on the door. The engine rumbled, then cut off. Victoria watched from the window. Her hands were steady now, but her stomach churned like she'd swallowed something rotten. Rocky stood beside her, ears forward, alert. Just be yourself, buddy. That's all you have to do. The doorbell chimed that soft sound she'd installed weeks ago. Officer Diane Reeves was 52, maybe 55. Short gray hair gone silver at the temples. No nonsense posture, like a woman who'd spent her life dealing with difficult situations. She carried a clipboard and wore a county uniform that had seen plenty of use. Mrs. Hayes, I'm here to conduct a behavioral evaluation of your dog. Come in. They moved to the living room. Victoria had cleaned up most of the broken glass that morning, swept it into bags, hauled it to the trash. The walls looked bare where the frames used to hang. Officer Reeves consulted her clipboard. The complaint alleges that on March 17th, your dog displayed aggressive behavior toward a visitor, growling, baring teeth, threatening posture. Rocky was protecting me. My ex-husband showed up uninvited. He was being, I'm not here to determine fault, ma'am. Officer Reeves looked up. Kind eyes, but professional. I'm here to evaluate whether this animal poses a danger to the community. She set down her clipboard on the coffee table. May I approach the dog? Victoria nodded. Rocky stood still as Officer Reeves walked toward him. His tail was low, his body tense, but he didn't growl. She extended her hand, palm down, let him sniff. Rocky's nose worked. His ears swiveled back and forth, reading her. Officer Reeves moved her hand slowly toward his head. Rocky flinched just slightly, a little jerk of his muscles, then held still. She touched his fur. He didn't react. Good boy. Her voice was calm, steady. Now I'm going to make some sudden movements. Standard protocol. She clapped her hands once, sharp and loud. Rocky startled, took a step back. His hackles rose for just a second. But he didn't bark, didn't growl, just watched her with those brown eyes, waiting to see what came next. Officer Reeves checked boxes on her form, made notes in small, neat handwriting. She pulled out a rubber ball, squeaked it. Rocky's ears perked up. His tail lifted slightly. She rolled it across the hardwood floor. It bounced off the wall. Rocky looked at it, looked at Victoria, looked back at the ball. Didn't move. He's uncertain, Officer Reeves said. That's trauma, not aggression. There's a big difference. She picked up the ball, wrote more notes. I'm going to review his veterinary records now. Dr. Webb faxed them over this morning. She flipped through pages. Her expression didn't change, but Victoria saw her pause on one page, then another. Her jaw tightened. These injuries, Officer Reeves looked up. Electrical burns? Incorrectly healed fractures? Malnutrition? He was tortured by his previous owner, a man named Brad Hollister, Desert Canine Training. I know that name. Officer Reeves' mouth pressed into a thin line. We've had complaints before. Never enough evidence to do anything. She closed the folder. Mrs. Hayes, this dog isn't dangerous. He's traumatized. I've seen enough of both to know which is which. Victoria let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. The complaint was filed by your ex-husband, yes, during a difficult time in your personal life. Yes, ma'am. Officer Reeves tucked the clipboard under her arm. I've seen this kind of thing before. Folks using animal control as a weapon in their personal fights. It's not what we're here for. She walked toward the door, stopped with her hand on the knob. Your dog passes the evaluation. Case closed. Victoria's legs went weak with relief. She put a hand on the wall to steady herself. Ma'am? Officer Reeves turned back. Whatever you're going through right now, that dog needs stability, routine. Someone he can count on. She looked at Rocky, who had moved to stand beside Victoria, his shoulder against her leg. Seems to me you both do. The door closed behind her. Victoria sank to the floor. Rocky pressed against her side, warm and solid. You did it, buddy. You passed. His tail wagged, a real wag this time, the kind that moved his whole back end and made his body wiggle. Her phone buzzed, a text from Margaret. Board meeting tomorrow, 9 a.m. I've got a plan. Are you ready to fight? Victoria looked at Rocky. He looked back at her. Steady, patient, waiting. She typed her reply. I'm ready. Day 49. 9:03 a.m. Victoria walked into the boardroom without an appointment. 12 faces looked up from their coffee cups and quarterly reports. Walter Fleming's smile flickered just for half a second. She placed a manila folder in front of him. Thick, heavy. This is documentation of your communications with Marcus Cole, phone records, emails arranging his guest pass to the gala. Photographs from the Scottsdale Country Club, March 8th, March 15th, March 22nd. Walter didn't touch the folder. His smile stayed fixed, but his eyes had gone cold. This is also a summary of how you've been steering company contracts to businesses where you hold interests you never disclosed to this board. Victoria looked at the other members. Linda had placed copies at each seat before dawn. Some were already flipping through the pages. You can vote on my leave of absence, or you can vote on his removal. She straightened her shoulders. I built this company from nothing. I'm not asking permission to keep it. I'm telling you what happens if you try to take it. Walter Fleming resigned at 4:47 that afternoon. Day 52, no press conference, no stage, no 400 witnesses, just Victoria's kitchen. Her phone propped against a coffee mug on the counter. The morning light coming through the window, soft and golden. The smell of fresh coffee brewing. Rocky lay on the floor behind her, visible in the frame. My name is Victoria Hayes. I grew up in a trailer park in Oklahoma. My mama worked 3 jobs to keep food on our table. She died when I was 19. Her voice was steady. Her hands rested on the worn countertop. I stole baby formula once, for a neighbor's child who was hungry. The charges were dropped. But the mugshot exists. You've seen it. She paused, took a breath. I'm not going to apologize for where I came from. Rocky's ears perked at the sound of her voice. I am going to apologize for hiding it. Not because I owed anyone my history, but because I let shame make my choices for me. She looked at the camera. That's done now. 6 months later. The mansion looked different. Photos on the walls now, real photographs, not fancy art. Victoria at a shelter event. Muddy boots and a grin. Margaret Hollis beside her, holding a leash attached to a confused-looking beagle. Rocky at a children's hospital, lying patient and still while a 6-year-old in a wheelchair scratched his ears. A 3-legged pit bull named Sadie, asleep on the living room rug. She'd arrived 8 weeks ago missing a leg, but not her spirit. Victoria was chairwoman now, not CEO, her choice. Mornings started with walks. Rocky on one side, Sadie hopping along on the other, slower but determined, her nails clicking on the sidewalk. Dinners happened at the table now, sometimes alone, sometimes with Margaret, arguing about politics over pot roast, sometimes with Linda, who'd finally started calling her Victoria instead of ma'am. Evening? The back porch. Victoria sat in her mama's old wicker chair she'd had it shipped from Oklahoma. Cost more to transport than it was worth. The cushion smelled like dust and memory. The sunset painted the desert orange and pink. Somewhere down the road, a neighbor was grilling supper. The smell of mesquite smoke drifted on the breeze. Rocky lay beside her, relaxed, loose, no coiled tension in his body anymore. Her hand rested on his head. Her fingers traced the raised scars on his neck, the marks from that shock collar. She knew them by heart now. Her phone buzzed. A text from the Rescue Foundation. Found one more. Rough shape. You available? Victoria looked at Rocky. What do you think, buddy brother or sister? His tail wagged. A real wag, the kind that shook his whole back end. She typed back, Bring them in. The sun dropped below the horizon. The sky turned purple, then deep blue. First stars coming out. Inside the house, the phone rang. Another dog, another creature somebody had thrown away. Rocky stood, stretched, looked at Victoria with those patient brown eyes. Come on, boy. Let's go to work. He followed her inside. The door closed behind them. They were still here. The end. You know what stayed with me most about this story? It wasn't the money, wasn't the big house or the board meetings or the ugly headlines. It was two broken creatures finding each other in the rain. Rocky taught Victoria something 42 years of success never could. That healing doesn't come from proving yourself. It comes from showing up even when you're scared, even when it hurts. And Victoria taught Rocky that not every hand brings pain. Some hands bring second chances. Maybe that's why stories like this matter to folks like us. They remind us it's never too late, that the things we're ashamed of don't have to define us, that sometimes the ones who've been thrown away are the very ones who teach us how to stay. If you're carrying something heavy today, a secret, a failure, a wound that won't heal, I hope you heard something in this story that lightened the load, even just a little. Disclaimer: this story is inspired by real rescue accounts and created solely for entertainment purposes. It does not condone, encourage, or promote any form of violence, animal abuse, or harmful behavior. All characters, names, and events are products of the author's imagination. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or deceased, or actual events is purely coincidental. Please support your local animal shelters and rescue organizations in your community.